Well, how about that? For once, I got everything up and running, and I don't have to run and get anything. The hat's on, the computer's here, the backup device is over here, and we are rolling. Woo. I'm kind of proud of myself. So, good job, me, I guess. What's up? Who is that? What does that say? Daniel and In Between the Lanes. Just finishing this up here, and all right, that's operating. I just got to make sure things are operating at the very beginning. Once a couple years ago, I had a live stream that crashed essentially, or it froze. Something happened to where no one could see anything, and I'd rather not repeat that. So I spent the first couple minutes making sure everything works properly, and it seems that it is. We've got Daniel Barry sports highlights. We got In Between the Lanes. We got David, all in the comments. So hope you guys are doing well. Before we kick this thing off, start talking about the races themselves, Cup, Xfinity, the F1 race in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. Obviously, there's 4 of you, 3 of you now. Oops, I scared someone off. In the comments or in the stream, whatever you want to call this thing. And I just wanted to thank you for 4,000 subscribers. It came a little quicker than expected. The last month and a half has been genuinely insane for the channel, the 2024 season. To say it has started off strong for the channel is that's an understatement. So I just want to start off thanking everyone who has been watching the videos, who has been liking the videos, new subscribers. Obviously, there's a couple of long-time subscribers in the comments currently. So each and every one of you, I thank you. It truly does mean a lot. I can't express it enough. Obviously, I don't have enough time, but I've got some time here at the live stream because there's no real hard cap on this time limit for the live stream, so I figured this would be a good time to thank you all. Coming up with something to do for the 4,000 special. I will let you know on that sometime either later this week or early next week. But once I get those details finalized, I will let you know. I'm going to reach out to some people, so, I got to wait on some responses. Anyways, let's start talking about this weekend. 3 races. I gotta admit, I probably won't remember any of them in a couple of years. The only thing I will probably remember is Justin Allgaier blowing a tire out of the lead with about 5 to go with a 3-second lead. That was crazy. That was absurd. You don't see a leader blow a tire a lot with a big lead, but we saw it with Larson at Pocono a couple years ago. In the F1 side of things, we actually saw it with Max Verstappen at Azerbaijan 3 years ago. But Allgaier, yeah, just blew. I don't know if he was running it too hard, if he ran over something, whatever it was, but his rear tire blew out. He was done. Looks like a for sure win, but I don't know what to tell you. The tire blew. So, yeah, it ultimately failed, and then Chandler Smith took advantage and got the win. In between the lanes, firstly, thank you for the congratulations. Means a lot. And then secondly, Joe Gibbs Racing Phoenix sweep. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, honestly. Chandler Smith won the race on Saturday. He's had a great start to the season. I think he has a top 5 in every race, I want to say, or at least 3 of the 4 so far. He's had a great start to the year. He's been running really well. Obviously, he's been leading laps. It's not like he's just fluking into these top 5s. I mean, he's genuinely been running up front. Vegas, he was probably the second best car behind John Hunter Nemechek. And then Phoenix, he was a top 3 car the majority of the day. So they've had a fantastic year so far, the 81 team. So if they can continue this, they're going to be a genuine threat. I mean, they already are a genuine threat. But in the as for the Cup Series side of things, yeah, I mean, Toyota just obliterated the field this weekend. 3 of the 4 Gibbs got. Did all 4 Gibbs cars lead laps? Yeah, all 4. All 4 Gibbs cars led over 50 laps, I want to say, or at least 40. Bell might have been in the mid-40s range, but all 4 Gibbs guys led tons of laps. Bell won the second stage. Bell won the race itself. All 4 were in the top 10, I think. You had Bell in first, Gibbs in third. I want to say Truex was 7th. Denny, was he 8th? Maybe someone correct me on that. Actually, I got a computer here. I can just look it up. But yeah, Joe Gibbs Racing just kind of owned everyone this weekend. Toyota as a whole, I mean, we saw Tyler Reddick lead a bunch of laps early on. We saw him win the first stage, and ultimately that's what happened. So let me get these Phoenix results. I know we talked about them yesterday, but just want to make sure. Make sure I get the information right, and the results are not loading. All right, give me a second. All right, you're going to be complicated today, Internet. Okay. Race results. Try this again. Hit the refresh. There we go. All right, so Christopher Bell first, Ty Gibbs third, Martin Truex Jr. 8th, Denny Hamlin finished 11th. So no, all 4 Joe Gibbs cars were not in the top 10, but they were on the top 11. So, it's close. But I was right the first time. All 4 led over 50 laps. Bell led 50, Gibbs led 57, Truex led 55, and Hamlin led 68. And then Reddick led 68, and Todd Gilliland led 14. Todd Gilliland, have yourself a year. I know the results for all the races so far have not gone his way at Daytona and Atlanta, but he's been leading a ton of laps. He's been up front. He's getting some experience at the front of the field. It doesn't matter how he led those laps on Sunday with the whole strategy and whatnot, but he led the laps. So that's what counts. That's what matters. That's what goes down on the stat sheet. They've been having a good year over at Front Row Motorsports. We kind of got off topic, but Front Row Motorsports has had themselves a year. What Joe Gibbs Racing looked like yesterday reminded me of Hendrick in 2021. All 4 cars were the ones to beat. Yeah, what was that? Dover 2021 with the 1, 2, 3, 4. Larson, I think, led the most laps in that race. I think Byron and Elliott led some laps too, but then obviously Bowman ended up with the win. Led 60 or so laps. I mean, they just killed everyone. And then the 2021, you said 21. So yeah, the 21 600 too. They led the majority of the laps of that race. Larson dominated. Elliott finished second. Bowman and Byron were both in the top 5 or top 6 at worst. So yeah, as you said, it was kind of like a 2021 Hendrick day, where we just saw all 4 guys up there in the top 5, top 10. We saw 2 or 3 just leading a bunch of laps. In 2021, it was usually Larson and Elliott. You'd see the occasional Bowman. Bowman won a lot of races in 21, but he wouldn't lead a ton of laps. I think Dover was probably the one that he most dominated, even though Larson led the most laps. So do with that information what you will. As the cord to my light, I accidentally clicked there. So sorry. Any paint schemes you like from Phoenix? Good question. I think you ask this question every week. I got to start preparing myself for this question, because then we do this. We sit here for a solid minute as I think through the numbers in my head and just throw things out. The Kubota, however you pronounce it. That's always a nice scheme. The orange and black always clashes well together. And once again, Trackhouse rarely. I don't even know if they have ever missed on a paint scheme. Barry Sunny D car looked fine. I mean, that car always looks pretty. The 6, that was a new paint scheme. The Consumer Cellular, that was a nice one. The 7's paint scheme was just the same as the Kyle Busch truck, so I guess that's a company-wide paint scheme. Speaking of Kyle Busch, that scheme's got a lot going on. The orange and the bright green, or not orange, blue and the bright green. That's just so much going on that zone car. The 9's paint scheme is the same it's been with the Kelly Blue Book. The 11, I did not like the 11. I thought they could have put a little bit more creativity into the 11, but ultimately it's not my choice. I'm sure someone out there liked it. But yeah, there were some good paint schemes out there. I just can't think of them at the moment. So we talked about the Ream paint scheme preseason. The Ream paint scheme preseason, once again, I said it looks great. It's something a little bit different than what they've done in the past, a little bit more white on the car, but they don't use the back half of the car for the sponsorship. There were all these studies, all these analytics that these teams paid these sponsor marketing people about moving the number up, and then some of these teams or some of these sponsors don't even use the back half of the car, and it's so frustrating. I just thank you for sponsoring a NASCAR team. I appreciate it. Your car is very pretty, but use the back half of it. Just put ream.com or something back there. Let DeWalt have it. Just do something. How long do you think it takes for Joey Logano to get back his form? Oh my goodness, Joey Logano. He had a terrible 2023. He was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. Only had one win, and it was at a super speedway, Atlanta. It's been a rough go for Joey Logano ever since that 2022 championship. And this year, the championship hangover, can we still call it that, from 22 is carrying over. Look, they just straight up did not have speed last year. Their top fives were usually they'd somehow show up at the end. Late caution would happen, a strategy call. Like, there was a lot of top fives that were not on pure speed, but this is still a championship winning team. It's a two-time champion driver. It's a two-time champion crew chief, a crew chief who's won championships with different drivers, by the way. It's a little confusing to why they are so off. Penske is still a top-tier Ford program. They're still fast, as Ryan Blaney has shown so far this year, but also the tail end of last year. So it's not a Penske as a whole thing. I don't know what it is, honestly. I mean, Cindric's even shown speed this year. Obviously got taken out early yesterday, but, he showed speed at Atlanta, at Daytona. It's a confusing case. It really is a confusing case on Logano. Obviously, wrecks have caught them out a couple of times, so you got to factor that in. Like Vegas, they ran 10th to 15th most of the day. But as for the today or yesterday, whenever that cup race was at Phoenix, just a bad time. A really bad time for Logano. They got to get it together. I think once we get more of these normal tracks going, I think they'll get it together. But Bristol, that's a good track for him. We'll see how he does there. The most concerning drivers so far are Austin Dillon and Joey Logano. Austin Dillon can't make 5 laps into a race without being in a wreck. That is factually correct. Micah Brown is not exaggerating. He crashed on lap 2 at Atlanta. He crashed on lap 4 at Phoenix. Vegas, he survived. In Daytona, he was involved in a lap 6 crash. He has been in a crash before lap 10 in 3 of the 4 races this year. That's bad. I don't need to tell you that's bad. You can listen to that. You can see it written down, and that is bad. That is really bad. The Austin Dillon thing can be solved. It sounds so easy. I know it's not this easy, but just simply qualify better. If you qualify better, you're not in the crap. You're not way back in the field where everyone's driving crazy, and you don't get involved in these stupid wrecks. I'm not saying you have to put it on pole every week, but just put it in the top 15, man. Goodness. I know that's asking a lot of Austin Dillon. I know a lot of people hate Austin Dillon, but he is a 4 or 5 time Cup Series winner. He's an Xfinity Series champ. He's a he's not a Cup Series champ. He's a Truck Series champ. He's got the capability. He gets a lot of crap, and yes, sometimes he underperforms, but he's shown in the past he's capable of being competent enough to compete up front. So, he's got to get it together. He had the most DNFs in NASCAR last year. He's on pace probably to have the most DNFs this year. He's got to get it together. And then we already talked about Logano a little bit. It's just, I don't know about Logano. He's still got the capability as a driver. He's got 2 poles this year. One of them was a little bit illegal. But I don't even know. I don't know. What's your thoughts on SVG so far this year? Good question. He has been doing a good job of just kind of other than Daytona, take Daytona out of the equation. Other than that, he's been doing a good job of keeping it clean and learning. And that honestly should be the objective for the first half of the season in terms of the ovals. He's going to a lot of tracks he's never been to before, a lot of style of tracks he's never been to before. But once we start going to tracks the second time is when it's like, okay, we're going to see how he can actually do. He's at a team that is capable of putting together fast cars. He is at a team that has won a lot of races in the past. So this first half of the season, when we hit Vegas for the first time. Obviously, he didn't get a lot of laps there. So when we look at Vegas in the fall, maybe, all right, he's going to need some more learning time there. But at the same time, by Vegas in the fall, we will have gone to a lot of other mile-and-a-half tracks that he has never been to before, and he will have had a lot of laps under his belt. Texas, Kansas, Charlotte. He will have been to a lot of those style of tracks that, even though he didn't get a lot of laps at Vegas in the spring, he can learn, or he can use what he's learned at Texas, Kansas, Charlotte, and he can take that and apply it to Vegas. I know those tracks, while they look very similar, they're different in their own ways, but there are small things you can take away from it. So from that aspect, he's done good. The super speedways, I think he's got down. Not 100%, but, the super speedways, sometimes there's not a lot to it. I mean, like at Atlanta, they were single file for 90% of that race. And that's pretty standard. That's pretty straightforward. It's not usually how it goes at the super speedways, but just stay in line. And if you think you can make a pass on someone, dive out of line, see if you can pull off a slide job and move up a spot. But he seems to be learning. We saw it at Atlanta compared to Daytona. He was in much less incidents, but then again, it was a much more calm race. But as for Phoenix, I mean, he did well. He wasn't the fastest in the first half of the race, but he was learning. It was his first ever laps at the track or whatever, or at least his second set of first laps, his first race laps. But then that second half, when he got up into that 11th place range, he really just stayed there. The cars in front of him kind of ran away, and, so what, whatever. Those are longtime Xfinity drivers. But no one behind him really caught up to him, so he was just having his own race. And then obviously he's a late race restart god, apparently. He just gains 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions, however many he wants at the end of these races. He's got the late race restarts down. Hopefully Kyle Busch can get back to form. Always something, it seems. I know the big thing is the pit crew at RCR. Yeah, and speaking of poor qualifying, Kyle Busch, what did he qualify, like 31st this weekend? My gosh. I get that RCR struggled on the short tracks in the next gen era, but my Lord. RCR is, are they, I think they're a top tier Chevy team. If not, they're top 2. You got Hendrick and Trackhouse. I'm pretty sure RCR is that next team up. They should not be qualifying 31st anywhere unless they are sandbagging at a super speedway because they don't want to get involved in the pack early in the race. I don't know what to tell you. RCR, if they want to compete for a championship, they got to run well at this track. This is the championship track. Now, RCR in the past year, a couple of years, they've shown speed at road courses. They've shown speed at intermediates, but the short tracks have just been bad. So they got to figure something out there. They've had a couple of years to do it, and yesterday was another example of excuse me, I'm going to bring my water cup over here, but anyways, yeah, so RCR just poor job so far on the short tracks. Remember that. Logano was good on Xfinity commentary, so it wasn't entirely bad a weekend for him. Yeah, I like him in the booth. I think he does a good job. Suarez, the first bit of the race, like the pre-race and the first few laps, it seemed like Suarez was struggling a bit, but as the race went on, I thought Suarez got much better in the booth, when he kind of got a feel for it, when he kind of, was a little bit more comfortable with just describing things. So Logano's always been good in the booth, I think. Him and Blaney last year at Montana was really fun. But I was impressed with Suarez, just how he progressed through the day as a commentator. I thought he did a great job. I'm excited to see how they do at COTA in a couple of weeks. They're going to be back for that race. Austin Dillon, bad luck. Yeah, I guess it is a little bit of bad luck when someone spins out in front of you, but you can't do much about it. But at the same time, don't qualify 33rd, man, or whatever he qualified. Raj Chastain, Ryan Newman pass hard. Yeah, Ryan Newman, everyone hated passing him. And then Chastain, he seems to be a difficult guy to pass. This is the second straight week. They played an alternate strategy on old tires, and Chastain was able to hold everyone off and finish well. Last week at Vegas, I think he got a top 5. if it wasn't a top 5, it was like 6th or 7th. And this past week at Phoenix, once again, he finished 7th, 8th, something like that. I have the results over here. I don't know why I'm guessing. 6th. I was close. Speaking of, I will get back to the comments here in a second. But first, we're going to look at the fantasy standings. So fantasy, we have a NASCAR fantasy league on the official NASCAR website. They have a fantasy kind of thing that you can do. We have a league of 15 people now. I'm going to put the link to the league in the chat, so anyone who wants to join our NASCAR fantasy league can join. We have a lot of fun. It's just for fun, just to see how you are doing, just to, test your NASCAR knowledge, I guess. Do whatever you want. But we have a fun time. It truly is a good time, and I enjoy it. So I hope you enjoy it too. I will read you the results as soon as I put the league in the comments. And I can pin it. I learned this last week. You guys taught me that I can pin a message on a live stream. Look at me. I'm so tech savvy now, apparently. But here are your updated standings in the NASCAR Fantasy League. Still leading after 3 weeks or 4 weeks. He took the lead last week. Zerkman95 now leads by a grand total of 27 points over Big Hat LJ. And then It's Factor, IT Factor, Autosport Incorporated is still on the podium, sitting in 3rd. Dan the Jets fan is in 4th. PC_18 is 5th. Pins_22 is 6th. Dr. Zero is 7th. 8th place is Hell on Wheels 24. 9th is Otterbear 8. 10th is myself. I dropped back a place this week. Well, that's disappointing. Anyways, 11th place is RT Racing. 12th is 45 and 2311 fan. 13th is Matt Smith 53. And 14th is Stevie G. And then 15th, Shane Van Hamburger Buns has finally made an entry. It only took him 4 weeks, but he finally woke up and decided to put his roster together and is sitting almost 200 points behind 14th. Everyone give it up for 15th place, Shane Van Hamburger Buns. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but you forgot to put together your lineup for like 3 weeks. So, but yes, that is the official league standing so far. We've got 15 members. Hopefully we can make it some more. It's been a fun time. I know Zerkman95, I know you're having a good time leading the points for the 2nd straight week. Just don't go Max Verstappen on us and absolutely obliterate us. So that'd be very nice of you. All right, back to the comments. There is the fantasy update. I know so many of you cared about that so much. Yeah, what he said about SVG and how many / if any wins you think he can get this year. And who's the biggest jerk he needs to watch out for / who's going to be his biggest rival, asks Staff Ematio NZ. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. If I did, you can yell at me. I don't blame you. I mispronounce names a lot on here. It's kind of a common trend. But how many wins can he get this year? That's a fantastic question. I think he does win a race this year. As for how many, that's tough because he's going to be good on the road courses. I know he talked about Coda and he's so used to track limits on the road courses and stuff, and that's going to be tough for him to just let the wheel go. Not literally, not like this, but, instead of turning it a little bit harder to stay within the white line, letting it straighten out a little bit to take the turn wide. And maybe Coda will be a learning experience for him from that aspect, but he's still a great road course racer. But his teammate, AJ Allmendinger, is also a fantastic road course racer. So in terms of rival, I don't think he'll be in like a crashing every other race kind of rivalry, but him and AJ Allmendinger are going to produce some fantastic battles at the road courses this year. They're teammates. They both have a lot of road experience. They both have a lot of road course success. I think AJ Allmendinger versus Shane Van Gisbergen at some of these road courses is going to be fun television. So I do think he wins a road race this year. I'd go with Chicago. It's a street race. But he's got a lot of opportunities to win a Xfinity race this year. As for Cup, I think he's very capable of winning a Cup race. I think he could defend his Chicago win. I think he could very well go out and win Coda, Watkins Glen. He's in a decently fast car in the Cup Series. Colleague's not as good as Trackhouse and Cup, but they did win a race last year on a road course with AJ Allmendinger. So I think SVG is very capable of winning a road course race in Xfinity and Cup. As for the ovals, I'm not ready to predict him as an oval winner this year. I think he still has a lot of steps to make forward. I'm not saying he's been bad this year, but just, he still has a lot of learning to do. So I'm not quite ready to predict him as an oval winner in the year 2024. As for who's the biggest jerk he needs to watch out for, um, that's a good question. When you say jerk, I'm assuming like you mean someone who would wreck him for the lead or something. I mean, the Xfinity Series, if you rub someone the wrong way, they will get you back. They will wreck you in retaliation. But that's a good chunk of guys. It's not just one person. So I can't think of one at the moment. You'd have to let me think on that. Yeah, we talked about that. We said that. Oops, the chat is glitching out. I like when active drivers are in the booth. Yeah, I agree. It gives a new perspective, a different perspective. Also, a lot of these guys have driven the Xfinity cars within the last 5 or so years. Suarez obviously won the Xfinity Championship in 2016. Logano hasn't done an Xfinity race in a while, ever since Penske shut down their Xfinity program. But, when Cindric's up there in the booth, obviously he just won the Xfinity Championship a few years ago. When you put Blaney up there, he's run some Xfinity races. When you put a lot of these guys have run Xfinity recently, so it's really good to get a fresh perspective. I enjoy it, like you said, in between the lanes. A lot of drivers and fans have been complaining about the short track package this weekend. That includes me. But I think a little more of a track problem. It's always been hard to pass at flat tracks like Phoenix. Why does Phoenix have the championship still? Why did it get it in the first place? Don't get me wrong. I've never been to Phoenix, but I've heard great things about their facilities. I've heard great things about the updates they've done in the garage, the fan experience. And, I applaud them for that. That's great for them, great for the area. Everything's great about it. Anything to get new NASCAR fans. First of all, we should not have a set race months in advance, years in advance, where a one race shootout decides the champion. I will go out of my way to tell you guys how much I dislike the playoffs any day of the week. But as for Phoenix being the championship, it should not. We should go to a mile and a half because those races are great. Unfortunately, I don't think NASCAR will give up the championship race because, they give the race to a track that they own. I would say Las Vegas should get the championship. I think Charlotte should have a shot at it, but they're owned by SMI. I would say Kansas should get it, but the fact of the matter is the championship is in November. It gets really cold at Kansas in November, and there's risks weather-wise for that. But there's a report going around that Homestead Miami could potentially get the championship race back. And I like Miami. I like Homestead Miami as the championship date, but I want to spice things up. If we're going to do this one race format where, the championship is decided in one race, let's just rotate it. Let's rotate it every year. Do Phoenix this year, next year do Homestead, 2 years from now do, I don't know, what other tracks does NASCAR own? Fontana. Okay. This is a wild conspiracy theory. I am making this up on the spot. I did not read this anywhere. I did not think of this anywhere. I did not see it anywhere. So I am making this up on the spot. So please do not spread this as some sort of rumor report because I'm making this up on the spot. I genuinely think that this Auto Club short track that they're making, I think that was supposed to be the new championship venue. I think that track was initially planned. Once again, this is my own wild conspiracy theory that I've come up with and I've convinced myself of because I have no logic and facts to back it. But I think that Auto Club was supposed to be their grand plan, a new racetrack, an epic fan base, fan facility, an epic garage, an epic everything. and it was going to be their Southern California big target, big audience, get some big stars to show up to your championship race. And now Fontana doesn't have a future, so their NASCAR's kind of sitting there like, what do we do now? Do we stay at Phoenix? Do we go somewhere else? Let's stay at Phoenix. And ultimately, Phoenix should not have 2 dates. Phoenix should not have a championship. Texas Motor Speedway is my home track, and as much crap as Texas gets just down the road from me, it produced better racing last year than Phoenix. A lot of you may disagree, but Phoenix has not been as good as Texas. Ever since the pavement's been wearing out a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you new Texas in the last 2 years has been great, but it's been better than Phoenix. Last year was better than Phoenix. It's not as good as Vegas. It's not as good as Charlotte, not as good as Kansas, but it's getting better. The more the track wears out, the more it gets some age, the more it gets some character, Texas is getting better. Phoenix, I have no hope for that track. But I think you're right in a sense about the aero problem. We're really going to learn about it at Martinsville or Richmond. Richmond, then Martinsville. Because Bristol, they run the intermediate package, which is weird. But it is how it is. I thought I was going to drop overall after Phoenix in the close match. In the matchup between Kyle Busch and Christopher Bell, I chose Kyle Busch. Oh, for fantasy? I'm scared to look. All my lineup finished in the top 10. I must have done bad on the picks, but I had Ty Gibbs in there. I had Blaney in there. I think I had Chastain in there. So, but once again, I fell back a spot. A little bit disappointing, but I'll get over it. Who you pick win Bristol? That's a good question. Toyota actually killed the field in the fall, but Chris Buescher won the night race a couple years ago. So, I have been going on and on about how Ty Gibbs is going to have a fantastic year. I predicted it in the preseason. I have continued pushing the Ty Gibbs agenda about how he's winning multiple races this year. He led a lot of laps at this race in the fall. He's got back-to-back top fives. He's got momentum. He's got confidence. I'm probably going to wait till qualifying to make an official prediction. But as of now, the unofficial prediction is Ty Gibbs wins his first ever race at Bristol. So there you go, David. There's my prediction for this weekend. Ty Gibbs is going to win at Bristol. We'll see how long leading the league lasts, says in between the lanes. Well, it's been lasting for 3 weeks now. 2. I guess you're keeping track maybe. Newgarden dominated the IndyCar opener at St. Petersburg. I did not watch, unfortunately. Sorry about that, IndyCar fans. I don't watch a lot of IndyCar. I watch the Indy 500 every year, and I'm definitely watching it this year with Larson. But I tried to go, or I wanted to go to an IndyCar race out in Birmingham when I was out there, but ultimately it just never came together. And then I would have gone to the IndyCar race at Texas this year if they had it, but they're not having it. So that was disappointing. When the IndyCar calendar came out, I was really disappointed to see Texas not on it. Because I genuinely wanted to go to the IndyCar race. I've never been. Centric with the bow tie. Oh, in the booth? I thought you meant a Chevy at first, and I was really, really confused. Championship 4 at Bristol. Spicy. Ooh, that would be something. Who said that? David? I'm going to dream about that. A championship race at Bristol. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm not going to dream. I'm going to dream that the playoff format dies. They go back to the Winston Cup, and then we have a 2-driver, like, let's say, Larson versus Bell. Oh, my gosh, that championship battle would go insanely hard. Larson versus Bell for the championship. It comes down to the final race. They are tied on points. Whoever finishes higher wins. And they're tied on wins. Like, they both have, let's say, 8 wins. They both have the same amount of top 5s, top 10, second place finishes. So the tiebreaker is straight up who finishes higher, and it's at Bristol. Ooh, That would be so cool. That would be so epic. The season finale at Bristol, the Winston Cup format, Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell at Bristol. I can dream. Too bad it's never going to happen. Let's see. We should go back to the old Winston Cup point system. They also need to have the championship race at Vegas. Craig, I like you. Because, first of all, I'm all about the Winston Cup format. That's how they decide real champions to me. But they don't anymore, unfortunately, because I don't make the rules. If I made the rules, the playoff format would be put in a trash can, thrown off a cliff, burned, take the ashes, put them in another trash can, burn that again, and then finally throw it into a volcano. Maybe a little bit too extreme, but I dislike the playoff format. But as for the championship race at Vegas, I've been saying that for years. I made back in my early video making days, back when I did not know how to edit or anything. I made a calendar and it had Vegas as the championship race. It's a mile and a half, which we go to a lot of mile and a halves. It's a big city. It's a big city with a lot of attractions that people want to go to, a vacation spot, if you will. And, you know, it's a great site for a championship. The venue, it's a nice venue. Don't get me wrong. I know they've done a lot of work in the garage. I've never actually been to it. But the grandstands, they've worked on a little bit. They could use a little bit more renovations, I guess, in terms of the concession booths and all that. But ultimately, Vegas is a good facility, you know? Yeah. I've been saying Vegas for years, and then when I remade my calendar, if I made the calendar 2 years ago, Vegas was the championship. But the perfect calendar for me would be you go to every track once. You do not repeat a track unless it's Charlotte and you go to the Oval for the 600 and you go to the Roval in October. Not October. October. That is the only situation that I will accept going to consecutive tracks in a season. Other than that, I think it should be about a 25 to 30 race schedule, and we go to every track once. So Daytona for the Daytona 500, Bristol night race only gets one date, Martinsville fall probably, Talladega. That's a coin flip on which one, if we keep the spring or the fall. Indianapolis, we do the Oval, as this is intended. But yeah, I can always remake that video sometime in the future. Why are Xfinity not racing at Bristol? Xfinity usually goes to one track a year. There's a couple that they go to twice a year. Like they go to Daytona twice. They go to Vegas twice. They go to Phoenix twice. But they're not like the Cup Series. They don't do 38 race weekends. They only have 33 race weekends. And they do a couple of tracks that are separate from Cup so that they can, you know, just spread themselves out a little bit. But ultimately, they only do 33 races, so that's why they don't go to Bristol twice. They do the Bristol fall race versus the Bristol spring race. Texas was fine in the first place. Multiple grooves to create momentum and speed, and the reconfiguration is just like Martinsville on a 1.5 mile track. Can't pass anyone unless they go up the track or move them out the way. Yeah, old Texas. I always say that I love old Texas. You know, it's the track I grew up going to from 2010 to 2016. And it was great. You know, it aged well. You could run the top, the bottom, the middle. You could make passes. You know, there was some tire wear. There were some bumps that gave the track character. And, like, some of the best races, like that 2015 spring race was fantastic. The 2014 fall race, as much as it traumatized me as a Gordon fan, it was a good race. The 2012 fall race, all great races, and they should have just repaved it. I don't get why they had to kill turns 1 and 2. If you just simply make it the same banking, the first few races might suck because it's all gripped up and whatever, but once the track ages, once it wears a bit, then you'll have some good racing again. But once again, wasn't my decision. I'm not paid enough to make those decisions. I'm not powerful enough to make those decisions, so not my call. Sorry. I would have made a different call. Championship 4 at Darlington. Ooh, I didn't even think about that. I don't know what the weather's like at Darlington in November, but It's a NASCAR-owned track. It's an intermediate. It's got a lot of NASCAR history. It's close to where most of the NASCAR fan base is. Ooh, that's actually that's a really good idea, David. I really like that one. That's a very good idea. Yeah, that's a really good one. But then, oh man, the only problem, I just now thought of this, is the Southern 500 is usually Labor Day weekend. So you would have to have two dates within, 2 months. But I don't think you could do it. I think the only reason why is because the Southern 500 at Labor Day doesn't want to be messed with. But it's a good thought. It's a fun thought, but you'd have to mess with the NASCAR schedule too much. I think the Charlotte Oval could be a good place for the championship. Provides great racing in its NASCAR's backyard. Yeah, as I said earlier, Vegas and Charlotte would be great tracks to do it at. The only problem is NASCAR does not own them. If NASCAR owned them, then ultimately NASCAR, I think, would opt to go to one of those two tracks. They would have already, I think, in this next gen era where the racing at those two tracks has been fantastic. But ultimately, they're not. NASCAR's not going to give up the championship date. They own the championship race, essentially, Phoenix, Homestead, wherever it may be. So unless they buy Las Vegas or Charlotte, which Marcus Smith I doubt he'll give up Charlotte, and I bet he won't give up Vegas. But it would be great for the championship, but unfortunately, it's SMI owned. That's tough. Go a couple more minutes here and then call it a day. What happened Daytona Road Course? I'm going to say it. I didn't like the Daytona Road Course for NASCAR. Both races there, just not a lot happened. 2020, I mean, I can't tell you what happened other than Chase Elliott won. 2021, I know there was a caution for rain, but it only rained in one turn and it wasn't even rain. And then Elliott dominated, but then somehow the rain caution screwed him. And then Logano stayed out on old tires. Christopher Bell caught up to him. Christopher Bell won. I couldn't tell you anything else about the Daytona Road Course. It was a cool concept. It was fun. I'm glad we experimented with it, but nothing really memorable from it. The racing just wasn't top tier. I'm not saying we need a 10 out of 10 race every time, but I mean, we need at least something memorable, I guess Christopher Bell's first win, that's memorable for Bell fans, but I don't know. But as for the F1 this weekend, Verstappen killed everyone again, but he did not lead every lap. Lando Norris led some laps thanks to the safety car. Ollie Bearman made his debut. He did a great job for a guy who's only 18 years old. Scored 6 points in his F1 debut for Ferrari. That was insane. Lance Stroll, man. That was tough to watch, that wreck. Pierre Gasly, tough scene. DNFing before the race even started, basically. Alpine's a disaster. That is my quick F1 recap. Christopher Bell could win again next weekend. He's been really good at Bristol in the next-gen car. I think he led the most laps in both races. Yeah, Bell's been great at Bristol in every series. I think Xfinity, he did great. Trucks, I mean, he's really good at Bristol. I don't know what it is about Bristol, but he's really got it figured out there. So, yeah, he'll be a contender. And as I said, Toyota just dominated this race in the fall. Gibbs, Bell, Hamlin all led laps. So I'd expect to see them do it again. So I guess we'll see if Christopher Bell can go back-to-back. Well, I know it was a shorter live stream this week, but I got to get going here. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I had a fun time. A lot of good questions. We talked about the championship race a lot. But, we had some good ideas. Darlington was thrown out there, Vegas, Charlotte, wherever it may be in the future. Homestead seems like it could come back. We talked a little bit about the Xfinity Series, how Shane Van Gisbergen going to do this year. We talked about this upcoming race at Bristol. We talked about last week's races at Phoenix with Allgaier blowing a tire, Bell dominating, or Toyota as a whole dominating. But thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And once again, thank you guys for 4,000 subscribers. It truly means a lot to me. It came a lot quicker than I expected, but once again, I'm really thankful for it. It means a lot to everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it's your first day or you've been here all, what year is it, 2024? Almost 7 years now, so I'm truly appreciative. Thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this live stream, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you want to join the Fantasy League, it's the pinned comment thingy, so go click it before it expires. I don't know if it expires, but if it does, click it, join our league, and try to do decent, I guess. So thanks again for watching. Have a good day.